Ketchup, pizza sauce, almost every pasta dish. Love them or hate them, tomatoes are all over cuisine today. Space media has prepared us to imagine a world where astronauts only eat protein paste, bugs, and farmed algae. Astronauts are presently poised to redefine that conception and get out ahead of science fiction though. They're ready to grow juicy dwarf tomatoes in space. Where do they rank as unusual objects in space? Watch to find out. Blasting off to our first off, where does the idea of growing plants in space even come from? NASA has been plotting to grow plants on the International Space Station for years. Off-world gardening is the cornerstone of any long-term habitation project, especially a potential long-term viable self-sustaining project. If you can grow your own crops and recycle your own life support from locally available gases, the last factor left is keeping the tech from breaking down before a colony would no longer be dependent upon earthly resupply. This could be the beginning of serious ventures deeper into the solar system. Plants capable of recycling oxygen will also be an important cornerstone of the life support systems themselves. Plants also have fringe benefits, like a nice aesthetic and positive psychological impact for the astronauts who see and tend them. Vital vitamins like vitamin C can also be better supplied fresh. NASA has a space garden known as the Vegetable Production System, also known as VEGGIE, aboard the ISS already. Each plant grows in a pillowed clay-based growth basin that combines space and fertilizer. They have had success with simple greens like kale before, but we are looking at a whole new level of space growery today. Hey, watch till the end, you never know. We might have fully space-sourced pasta sooner than expected. Now then, what's the news with space tomatoes? The latest phase of the VEGGIE operation, codenamed Veg05, is pressing ahead to the land of culinary delight and deep space pizza night by experimenting with the gardening of dwarf tomatoes. Talk about a fun science experiment. Growing our own ketchup would have been awesome in science class. One NASA Life Sciences project scientist, Joya Massa, discussed the test of tomatoes in an earlier statement. The team is growing tomatoes and looking at the impact of light spectrum on how well crops grow in general and in space in particular. How delicious and nutritious the byproducts are will be closely studied as well. Presumably, they've designated a taste tester, and the rest of the crew is very jealous. They'll also be looking into the microbial activity on the fruits and plants, something that can be very well isolated in a space environment where there is not a natural filament of unexpected and hard to sort microbes. Joya went on to explain the tomatoes are getting grown in the on-system garden of the VEGGIE system. VEGGIE might sound like a greenhouse-sized garden, but it's actually about the size of a suitcase. Previous successes with the system include lettuce, cabbage, kale, pepper, and the occasional lovely flower. Tomato could let them gin up a mean salad, eh? This is a pretty juicy upgrade to what has come before, as previously it was basically down to leafy plants. Giving a nice breath of taste will help make life in space better. But more than that, it will test the ability of low-G growing, as there are still scientific doubts over whether such plants will properly form without gravity. While this is no moon farm exporting salad mixes, that could be coming up next if the Artemis missions are going well enough. And it won't be limited to space stations. The Orion manned spacecraft could bring their own veggies on the road with them for recycled veggies. Alright, so what does all this mean for the future of space life? NASA is planning to put humans back on the moon by 2024 as part of the Artemis mission series that will eventually reach for Mars. However, before then, we may have moon outposts. Commerce and economic activity centered on moon exploration and settlement are a significant part of NASA's plans for the future of the moon. Could we be ordering moon pizza soon? Moon kale smoothies? That's a pretty unique setup, but we will have to go a long way to reach such a scenario. Most commercial speculation relating to space revolves around returning with economy-shattering quantities of precious metals. But if space can be turned into a source of food with highly controlled conditions, all manner of delicacies and highly tuned superfoods could be developed. You might find space farms odd, but we've got a whole load of interesting and unique objects that have been passed into space from Earth. So let's get cracking on that, shall we? Let's get into it. The most unusual objects ever launched into space. Humanity has long sought to go where none had before, far into space. space, deep under the waves, through all manner of environment. But sometimes it's not about where you're going, it's what you're sending there. We are going to break down the top strange items launched into space so that we can ponder what the aliens will think in a few million years when they come crashing through the windshields of their spaceships as the sole mark of our civilization they ever encounter. Keep that mental image in mind as we knock down this list, and be sure to keep the video going because you are not going to believe where this list goes. First up, a lightsaber. The Force is strong with both the mass and velocity of this little artifact tossed into the void. Some major Star Wars fans work for NASA, and that has led to a few jokes and inside nods over the years. But this all peaked in 2007 when a team of 7 astronauts blasted off to deliver the Harmony module, also known as Node 2, to the International Space Station. This was the 30th anniversary of the classic Star Wars adventure started, A New Hope, debuting in cinemas. Lucasfilm commemorated the event by having a lightsaber prop wielded by Luke Skywalker himself sent up there with the mission. In 2018, a BB-8 figurine was launched into space by the UK toy retailer Argos to commemorate the release of The Force Awakens. Next up, human remains. Yep, you heard us right. Get your Necronomicons out, astral necromancers. We've sent human ashes into space, and the coming of the old ones is at hand as the dead falls from the skies. Oh no, it's not October anymore, right? So, famous sci-fi writer and inventor of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, had a sample of his cremated remains donated to be sent into space. It was carried into space and returned to Earth on the NASA Space Shuttle Columbia in 1992. Numerous scientists and celebrities have gone into space, facilitated by both NASA and private space corporations, offering a chance to throw your very own ashen bones to the stars. Hey, you can shoot for the moon and hit the stars in life, or in death now. Most space burials only bring a fraction of a person's ashes due to how incredibly expensive it is to send anything up there, and how dangerous it would be if the container shattered and became space shrapnel to slice into the delicate cracks of satellites. There is a closer alternative too, for those conscious about space littering. Aura Flights split off from sent into space and offers a new type of space funeral. Rather than shooting you into the void forever, they scatter ashes in a beautiful cascade via low Earth orbit. This works its way into the stratospheric winds over weeks to months. Eventually, it all makes its way back down to the troposphere, mingling with moist air to act as the seeds for raindrops and snowflakes. They'll return and fertilize the Earth in a perfect circle of life, death, and spacecraft. After that, a car. Wow, you sure wouldn't want a car to crash through your spaceship's wonderful shield, right? Worse yet would be if it caught on fire right on the bridge. That could be a serious issue, considering the car sent into space was a Tesla. Elon Musk owns both the car and energy company Tesla and the space company SpaceX. Pairing these two together was a great opportunity for some cross-promotion, we have to say. I mean, who else has gotten their cars into space? It's a very unusual payload that shows off the car and the SpaceX technology that put Musk's brand out of this world. The Tesla Roadster made it to space on an elliptical heliocentric orbit back in 2018, brought by the chariots of the gods themselves, the Falcon Heavy rockets. Elon might have been the first person to send a car that was working into space, but actually, there was another car fired into space first. It just wasn't roadworthy at the time. Back in 2016, the Audi R8 was sent into space to celebrate the announcement that a team from the German automakers was designing a lunar rover named the Audi Lunar Quattro. You really won't believe this, a dirty sketch by Andy Warhol. The Moon Museum was a concept produced by sculptor Forrest Myers. Myers produced small wafers of ceramic and petitioned his 5 famous artist friends, Robert Rauschenberg, David Novros, John Chamberlain, Claes Oldenburg, and Andy Warhol, to sketch a small image on a singular wafer. Then he asked NASA to put this ceramic on the moon. NASA straight up ignored his requests. He then went for a different approach, non-profit fundraising. He went on to fund this non-profit and build links between engineers and artists. Eventually, he'd get an in at Bell Laboratories, who manufactured the wafer and gave it to someone working on the Apollo 12 lander module. While never officially confirmed, Myers and a Bell Lab scientist named Fred Waldauer claimed that the wafer did successfully ride up on the lander and now sits on on the moon. Warhol claimed copies of his artwork distributed to the press were really him writing his initials intersecting, AW. However, it rather looks naughty to anyone else. It's definitely a crude the style drawn on middle school bathroom stalls. Classy, Andy, classy. Honorable mention goes to the plastic testicles launched into space as part of the Robin Cancer Trust's attempt to raise awareness about the importance of regular self-checks. Testicular cancer is no joke, but the joke of Warhol's probably was. Lastly, Legos. You've stepped on them in pain on Earth. Now, there's the same for aliens in space. The Legos were launched with the Juno mission with figures of Galileo, Juno, and Jupiter. May they rest amid the heavenly stars until they spite someone's foot. That's all for now, Space Cadets. Like and subscribe to give us booster fuel for our journey through the Tubeverse and enjoy more content. See you next time.